Wow, that didn't go right. Oh my goodness. Okay. Uh-oh. We got a problem. How are we doing? Has the echo stopped? Oh my goodness. Amateur hour. Wow. Good thing the stream hasn't started yet, isn't it? Because the stream will begin soon. Amateur hour. If I turn this back on? Goodness. Wow. Amateur Good thing the stream hasn't started yet, isn't it? Wow. Because the stream will be... I know what happened. There we go. Can't monitor that. Okay. Yeah, okay. No echoes. Okay. Oh yeah, there we go.
If you wanted a Mustang that was fun to drive, you had to step up and get the V8 powered Mustang GT because the V6 was boring and slow. Well, things have changed quite a bit since then. The V6 Mustang is gone. Now the base level Mustang is the EcoBoost. It has 310 horsepower and it does 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds, and it starts around $28,000, meaning that the base model Mustang is now fast and fun and cool looking and surprisingly cheap.
Surprisingly
affordable. The GT had to get faster.
The GT, and that means that the GT is freaking pointless. Here's why that isn't worth. And you should have got. Doug DeMuro agrees with my choice to buy an EcoBoost. Suck it! There we go. That's Alex. Alex, my mic was off. My mic was muted. Alex. I don't care why. There's no excuse for that. This is a professional live stream. These people are expecting a high degree of production value. That is... I'm sorry, guys. Alex is new here. He's not used to the soundboard yet. Had some loopback echo earlier. Now we had the mic mute. It's so hard to... Listen. If any of you guys, if any of you guys has experience with live production, I'm not talking about chintzy live streams. I mean, if you've done like ESPN, like television production to a high standard of quality, send me your resume. Oh, you're not going to mute that though. Okay, thank you. I don't want to hear any more mistakes. No more excuses for the rest of the live stream. All right, guys, let's keep it. Welcome to my live stream. It's a Q&A live stream. I am, as you probably all know, Joshua Bardwell, and I'm here to answer your questions and, occasionally entertain you with discussion about my car. I was just watching this review, Doug DeMuro, who is a respected automotive journalist, talking about the Mustang GT, which, as you may know, I don't have. I have the 4-cylinder turbo, but I think he had some really good things to say about it, and I just wanted to share that with you. But no, Joe Kunsch, I am not drunk. I am not drunk. I am. This is just. In fact, I don't even have a drink today. It's Sunday afternoon for me. It's 1 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon. I just finished my coffee, actually, a little bit ago, and maybe that's what I'm high on, is caffeine. Doing this at 1 p.m. for the folks over in Europe. Hello, Europe. Represent in the chat, Europe. Say the name of your country in the chat. Why not? Let's see what we got. What do we got? What do we got? I am watching the chat. I haven't got to the chat yet. Check it out. This is my main screen. This is the center screen. I don't even have it off to the side. I got the YouTube chat right up here. EU, Italia, UK. UK not technically in Europe anymore, is it? Luxembourg. America is definitely not in Europe. Germany, Slovakia. You know, you don't have to be in Europe. Austria. You could be from anywhere over there. Look at that all going out. Look at that going out. Poland, Sweden, South Africa, living in Wales. Hey, that's fine. Yeah, buddy. I'm monitoring the chat here on YouTube. I got the super chats up as well. And in case you didn't, I'll only say this once, but in case you didn't know, if you want to throw a couple bucks my way, you can click this $sign right here. Throw me a super chat. It'll show up in this special window that only you get to be in, and I will definitely answer your question. And I'm also monitoring, this is my Discord server. Didn't know if I had a Discord server, but I do. And my patrons get to join the Discord server. If you join my Patreon, that's one of the few advantages you get. I'm a terrible Patreon creator. I give almost nothing extra to my patrons. I just, I'm like, hey, look, if you enjoy my content, you get value out of it, and you feel just compelled to throw a couple bucks my way, you can join my Patreon. But one of the things my patrons do get is access to my Discord server, and they get priority during the... Not complete priority. Like I always support folks for free. So here I am. Let's get started, and we're going to get started with some of the questions in the chat. Cotees says, I pay Patreon to keep you making YouTube videos. That's right. See, as a Patreon, the way Patreon is supposed to work, and by the way, some people are annoyed that I say Patreon and not Patreon. I don't know what the right way, but some people are, the way it's supposed to work is that you beg people to join your Patreon, and then you like make extra content for them. And I'm like, I already make like 7 videos a week. I can't make any more content. I'm so sorry. But if you, I just am like, please just, anyway, it seems to work. So let's answer some questions. Richard Warwick, am I still with Rotor Riot? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. There you go. Easy one. Let's see. So Samsung or Apple? I have a Samsung Note 9. So there you go. Let's see here. Looking for questions, guys. Looking for questions in the chat. Jumper T16. Ali Aryan. Hold on. You were asking about the Jumper T16. It's funny that you asked that because I literally have one right here. Jusha Bardwell. I'm already married, so I don't think I could marry you. Jusha Bardwell. If you're a fun account, you'll be allowed to stay. If you're a troll account, you'll be kicked. So, choose wisely. Jumper T16. What? This is Ooh. Damn. Hold on now. You feel solid. Wow. This is literally the first time I've held the Jumper T16 in my hands. Hold on. Let's do the peel. Like Linus Tech. Let's do the peel. Oh, yeah. There's the peel. This is literally the first time I've held it in my hands. Clearly, is it me, or are they trying to look just like a Futaba? Is it me, or are they trying to look just like a Futaba? It looks a lot like a Futaba to me. Gimbals the sticks are, you're going to get my very first impression of the Jumper T16 right here on stream. The sticks are shorter than I'm used to. I would want to extend the sticks. The travel is, looks like it's like a 90-degree travel, plus minus 45. So it feels like there's less travel than on the Tyrannus. Let's see if I extend the stick ends. How far out can you extend the stick ends? And maybe that'll help. I'm fine with the 45-degree travel. I can deal with that. I do like the longer travel on the Tyrannus. I think it gets you more precision. But I can deal with 45-degree travel. I'm going to try to extend the stick ends out a little bit. In case you didn't know, by the way, you can just unscrew the stick ends. My focus isn't perfect for this. You can just unscrew the stick ends and then screw the base up. And that you can do that on just basically any radio almost. If you didn't know that, now you do. This Livestream is already super useful for you. With the longer stick ends, oh, that's actually a little bit too long. I feel pretty good about that. So the sticks, the gimbals feel good. Are they Hall effect gimbals? I'm not sure. Got a little soft touch plastic here on the side. That's kind of nice and kind of grippy. A little soft touch plastic. Unfortunately, there's no built-in module on this guy. I'm sad about that. Like many of the jumper radios, they are using the multi... Now, this is cool because this is a multi-protocol module, which means that it can do free sky, fly sky, spectrum. It can do all of them. So that's cool. But I wish they had built the multi-protocol module into the radio so that then I could put a Crossfire in the back and then I could have everything in one. Page, model, tele. Yeah. So... switches feel good. Feels nice in the hands. I don't hate it. Sticks feel okay. I don't think it has a battery in there. Oh, it does, but it's not plugged in. Oh, nope, my bad. So I'm not going to like power it up here on the stream, but Jumper T16, I will be reviewing it. Jumper did send it to me for review. Thank you to Jumper for that. Here's the thing I say about the Jumper T16. Trappy likes it. If Trappy likes it, like, I get that Trappy will... The thing is, Jumper is... Free Sky's kind of mad at Jumper because well, anyway, Free Sky doesn't like Jumper, so Trappy doesn't like Free Sky. So I get that Trappy is prone to like Jumper, but Jumper is also kind of like a cloner, is what Free Sky's problem is. So if Free Sky accuses Jumper of being a cloner and Trappy goes, nah, I'm on Jumper's side, then Jumper might make a good product, because at the end of the day, like, gee, I would think Trappy would dislike him. Anyway, okay. Yeah, 507RC, I think he likes it politically, but he hates cloners. So it's hard to know, like, does he hate Free Sky enough? Here's the question. Does Trappy hate Free Sky enough that he would say a bad product was a good product? I think that at the end of the day, he wouldn't endorse like a product he thought was bad just because they were sticking their thumb in Free Sky's eye. So anyway, there we go. Let's see here. Oh man, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to mangle your name. I'm getting this weird problem. I've got a Tyrannus X9D and I'm not getting full range with it, only like 200 meters. So what I would do is I would test it with multiple receivers, multiple quads. And if it's with all the quads, then probably you've got a damaged radio backboard. If you have done the antenna mod, or if you have the SE, you have the SE. So if you take the antenna off all the time, the antenna connector can get damaged, or the actual radio board can get damaged. So what I would do is I would try a new antenna. Definitely make sure it's the right, it's not like the stock antenna. Make sure it's tuned to the right 2.4 gigahertz frequency. Don't accidentally like buy a 5 gigahertz antenna. Try a different antenna, and if that doesn't fix it, you may need to replace the radio backboard. But the first thing I would do is try multiple receivers, and that'll help you rule out whether it's the radio or whether it's the receiver. Darij 5655YT says 4-in-1 or individual ESCs. For beginners, individual ESCs make the most sense, because when you damage one, then you are going to it's going to be like $12, $8, $15 maybe to replace it, $20 if it's expensive. But beginners generally shouldn't spend too much on super premium equipment, because you're going to destroy it all anyway. You need to spend enough that the equipment is like not crap and just dying on you, but don't spend so much that when you break it, then you can't afford a replacement. So I think beginners, individual ESCs are the smart way to go. With a 4-in-1 ESC, if it does fry, then you're going to spend $60, $50 on a replacement, even though you have 3 perfectly good channels and only one of them's dead. For higher end builds where the 4-in-1 is way easier to solder up, it's so much quicker because it's just less, and it's easier to replace if you have to, because you don't have to desolder all the signal wires. You just pop the plug out. So for people with a little bit more money than time, or pros who care a lot about weight and compactness, 4-in-1. Let's see. Is there an easy fix for a loose XT60 connector? Yes, there absolutely is. What you do is you take a Phillips head screwdriver like this, and you just stick it in the prong of the XT60 connector. This is going to be the connector on your quad, not the connector on your battery. And you spread those prongs out just a tiny bit, and that tightens it right up. When am I going to review the Marmot frame? I got my Marmot in the mail with the pre-orders. I will be reviewing it probably this week. I haven't shot the review yet. I did talk about the Marmot some on a previous live stream. But I know that doesn't help you very much because you can't dig through the live stream. Gonna jump over to the Discord, the JB FPV Know-It-All Discord, available to my patrons. You get the invite to that. I'll be honest, the invite is floating around out there, and I don't exactly kick people off if they get on the Discord server and aren't patrons. But the easiest way to get on there, and patrons get access to channels like this live stream chat channel that other people don't get access to. Also, occasionally I do, if I have a long car ride is usually when I do it, I'll jump on into like a couple hours of voice chat on a weekend. Born Relentless asks, I have the V1 JB flight controller. I accidentally pulled off the buzz minus pad. Is there any other way to get my buzzer to work? Yes, sort of, but realistically, no. The problem is that the buzzer minus pad is just a little, it's just a little transistor on-off pin. And you could theoretically remap the buzzer function to something like the LED strip pin. But the problem is that the current pulled by the buzzer is too high and it will fry a general purpose pin. So the buzzer minus pin has what's called a transistor buffer circuit on it. You can make your own. Hang on, I'll show you. I know, CC3D buzzer. Yep, this is the image I always go to. This is it. This is how you make a buzzer circuit. And what you can do is, this is the electrical, here you go. Here's the electrical diagram. You need a transistor and you need a buzzer. And what you're going to do is you're going to connect the white signal wire to your LED strip pad, and then remap the buzzer function to the LED strip function. And then you need to build this circuit, and that will actually, that would be how you do it. Now, many people are not going to go to the trouble of doing that. I'll paste a link to this graphic in the chat or in the Discord for you there, Born Relentless. If you want to do that, that's how you would do it. You can use LED strip, but you will burn out that pin if you just wire, I guess you would wire, yeah. You could wire, I guess, negative. You would wire ground to LED strip if you wanted to burn out the LED strip, so don't do that. Yeah, okay. What's the status of the X-Class quad, the Beast Class quad? The status is it's actually literally on my bench right this minute. So the status is that I have soldered up the PDB and the big honkin' ESCs, and I have recorded all that, and that video is being edited right now. And I will be putting that video out this week, I hope. That is the very beginning of the Beast Class build. I really wanted to put the Beast Class build out as just one big long video so you could get it all at once, but because it's such unfamiliar gear to me, it's going slowly. Like, I've never worked with the Brain FPV flight controller before, not this one, and I'm being really careful with this 12S freaking gear to do everything slowly and correctly. So it's going slower, so you're going to get the video in a couple of segments. Because the longer something takes me to make it, the more I have to sort of stretch it out on the channel. But it is happening. It's getting there. In fact, it's closer to done than you think, because at this point, all I have to do is solder up the flight controller, which, I mean, then the motors, but the motors are just three solder joints, right? So it's closer than you think to flying based on how it looks. I've done the hard stuff already. Look at those ESCs. 12S, 120 amps. Holy crap. Oh, and how much do they cost? They're like 120 bucks a piece. So, yeah. What do I think? John S for $2. John S gives $2 in the super chat and asks, what do I think of the Nirvana radio? The Nirvana radio, I'm not sure how to handle the situations like this. I don't want to bore people who watch the other live streams. I talked extensively about the Nirvana radio in another live stream. At the same time, John, you paid $2 to get me to talk about the Nirvana radio, so I'll give you my short version of it. The build quality is really solid. The software has gotten mature. If you get the underground FPV software, OpenTX support for the Nirvana has been pushed off to 2.4, and 2.3 isn't even out yet. So if you're waiting for OpenTX, don't wait. Just get the underground FPV firmware. It's annoying that you have to pay an extra $40. If you bought the radio anywhere except underground FPV, you got to pay another $40 to get the underground firmware. But since OpenTX doesn't seem to be putting a lot of effort into releasing firmware for the Nirvana, that's kind of your only option. You can get the underground FPV. The underground FPV firmware is open source, and if you know how to download the source code and compile it, you can actually get it for free. But it's non-trivial to do that. There is actually a hex file someone put on RC groups I saw, and you could download that and flash it without paying the $40. But if you don't know how to do that, you got to buy it from underground. The ergonomics on the Nirvana are not spectacular. I don't like the way the switches are on the underside. So that's my biggest complaint about it. But it's pretty solid. I don't hate it. Timothy Faffel, $2, no question. Thank you, Timothy. Nitro, $5 asks, how much power does a receiver put out when it sends telemetry back to my transmitter? Nitro, that is going to vary depending on the receiver, but in my experience, all the ones I'm familiar with, the receiver sends telemetry at the same output power as the transmitter. That may not be true for long range ones, though. Like if you've got a 2-watt Crossfire, is the receiver going to put out 2 watts when it sends telemetry back? I just doubt that it can do that. The thing is, if the receiver put out less power than the transmitter, then you would lose telemetry before you lost control. And it's no problem with a 2.4 gigahertz free sky spectrum system. At that point, the transmitter is at 100 milliwatts or less. So the receiver can easily put out 100 milliwatts and send telemetry back. With a long range system like R9 or Crossfire, it seems to me like they probably, I don't know. Anybody out there flown like really long range with Crossfire? Do you lose telemetry once you get so many kilometers out? Or have they figured out some way that your control link is 2 watts and high powered, and maybe they like slow down the baud rate or something on the telemetry, so even though it's only at 100 milliwatts or whatever, you can get signal back? I don't know the answer to that. Let's see here. Catching up on the chat. Is there a rule of thumb? Jacob Martinson, I love that question. Is there a rule of thumb on how much motor idle throttle value you should have? So let me grab my spare flight controller here. Oh, this will do. Eachine trash can just sitting here on the bench. Let me just plug this in so we can just look at Betaflight and make sure we are on the same page. How long does it take Joshua to plug in a USB connector? There we go. Got it. And we'll fire up Betaflight. And we will pop over. There we go. So here in Betaflight, what you are talking about is in the configuration tab, and we've got the motor idle throttle value %. And if you happen to be using multi-shot, then there's actually a min throttle value. It's not expressed as a %. It's expressed as a ESC throttle value between 1,000 and 2,000, but you could do the math. 1,100 would be 10%, etc. So this looks like it's at about 7%-ish. But we'll go back to D-Shot, which is what most people are using, and the default value in Betaflight is 4.5%. And that is actually a pretty conservative number. For most builds, you can actually drop that down without causing problems. The problem is that when the motor idle gets too low, then the motor goes to idle and then suddenly needs to start again. It'll actually stutter and the quad will drop an arm or even death roll. So Betaflight sets that value to be a little bit conservative, a little bit higher than it needs to be, because they don't want people's arms or people's quadcopters falling out of the air. So you can generally lower this on most quads. I run around 2.5% on most of my freestyle builds. The thing you want to be careful if you lower it too much is at the end of a snap roll or a snap flip, the quad will death roll. Or if you notice that when you drop the throttle and raise the throttle, it goes boom like that, that's no good. So you're going to want to be careful about that. But I usually take it down. On some builds, especially micros, you see that a lot of times the idle value is a little higher. I'm not 100% sure why that is, because you would think the smaller motor would need less idle in order to keep moving. But then again, the smaller motor has less mass, so maybe it has less inertia. I'm not sure about that. I think the default value of 4.5 is high for many like 5-inch builds. And I generally try to lower it, because the lower idle speed lets you descend faster. And it means that when you're inverted, you get slightly more inverted hang time because the props are not pulling you down. So my Wizard, Harry 5916 says, on my Wizard, they're burned out one ESC, and I don't know why. Harry, I have bad news for you. If you've got the Wizard X220, the Racer Star ESCs that come on it are just trash. They're trash, and they burn for no reason. It's a damn shame. It's not your fault, though. Just take this opportunity to replace the ESCs, and don't replace them with the exact... The thing is, Racer Star ESCs, they're cheap, but they are not trash. They're not fantastic. But the ones that are on the Wizard, I wonder if they are actually like a separate dedicated production line just to the Wizard, because it just seems like people who buy the Wizard X220, the ESCs on it just die and burn for no freaking reason. Like literally you just plug them in and it lights up. So does anybody know, Mark Pietersi, does anybody know what you need to do with the small RSSI pad on the back of a FrSky XM Plus? Can I connect it to the RSSI pad on my Maytech F405 STD? Let's take a look. Let's say Maytech F405 standard. Let's not say STD on the stream, shall we? XM Plus. Let's look at the FrSky XM Plus, and let's just make sure everybody is on the same page here. Let's see if we can find that RSSI pad. Yeah, there it is. So here on the back side of it is the RSSI pad, and that should be putting out, when you see that pad on any receiver, that should be putting out analog RSSI. And what that means is that there will be a voltage on that pad which varies between 0 and 3.3 volts typically, that is proportional to the RSSI. And if you connect that to the RSSI pad on your flight controller, you said you had the Maytech F405 standard, so let's just pull that up. Let's see if we can find a pinout for that guy. I'm not sure that's a high definition image. Where's the pinout for this guy? Where's that RSSI tab? There it is. RSSI right there. I hope you can see that on the stream. There's the RSSI. So if you connect them, and then in Betaflight, what you need to do is you need to go to the configuration tab and enable this option, RSSI ADC. And that will tell Betaflight to take its RSSI measurement from that analog RSSI pad. And then what you're going to do after you save that is you're going to go in Setup and look right here at the RSSI, and you should see the RSSI is above 0%. Now, there's a little bit of confusion. If you have gone to the Receiver tab and you have set an RSSI channel, the RSSI ADC option overrides the RSSI channel. So the XM Plus can also put out RSSI as one of the aux channels, which is how most people will do it. If you are going to use the RSSI ADC option, that's fine. But if you're trying to use the RSSI channel option and it is not working, you might need to go to the configuration tab and disable RSSI ADC. So again, just to be clear, if you're using the analog RSSI pad on your XM Plus, then you want RSSI ADC to be turned on. If you're using the aux channel option, then you want RSSI ADC. You need RSSI ADC to be turned off. Okay, there's the answers for that. Kind FPV says over in the Discord, now that I have RSSI figured out, my amp and milliamp hour scale is way off. It shows over 3,000 milliamp hours on a 650 milliamp hour battery. So what I would first do, Kind FPV, is let's go into Betaflight again. Here in Betaflight is I would go to the power and battery tab. And what I want you to do is just look here at the power state and look at the amps, and like just with the battery unplugged, just make sure you see 0 amps. Because what you can do is you can just crank the amperage scale to a ridiculous number and it'll read like 20 amps just sitting there on the bench. It's not reading correctly. And so it may be that your amp reading is not set up correctly at all. You need to make sure that your current meter source is set correctly and that you're actually getting a valid amp reading. So the first thing I want to check is I'll just check that I see basically 0 amps or maybe 0.2 amps or something just when I'm sitting here on the bench. But then if I plug in a battery and spin the motors, I should see the amps go up. And in fact, if you go to the motors tab, they're showing the amp reading here. And so what you could do is, I don't know, I'm not going to get a battery and demonstrate this, but you're just going to plug in a battery with your props off and spin the motors and make sure that you see the amps go up, okay? It may not be correct, but it should be basically, you want to make sure that your amp reading is basically working correctly. And then once you've got it working correctly, the approach I would use is this. Let's see if I can find the video. Yeah, this video is the safest way to... No, don't watch. I'm in an incognito window, so I'm seeing an ad. This is the procedure I use to calibrate the current sensor, and I'll paste that in the chat, and I'll paste that in the Discord. Alrighty. Okay, there we go. Oh, let's see. What's the best PIDs for a long-range 7-inch quad? Wessel Vuslu asks, there's no such thing as PIDs for a 7-inch, PIDs for a 5-inch, PIDs for a frame, PIDs for motors. The PIDs that work best for a quad will depend a lot on the power to weight ratio. A more powerful quad with lighter weight is going to need lower P and D gain in general, all else being equal. A larger quad is generally going to need lower I gain because it will have more inherent stability due to its mass. But the truth is that the weight distribution, the power to weight ratio, the responsiveness of the motors plays into the D gain. More responsive motors may need less D gain. There's no such thing as PIDs for a 7-inch long range quad. What I always recommend is that you start with the default PIDs, because the default PIDs actually work really well on a very wide variety of builds. And then look for specific deficiencies in the tune that you don't like, and then focus on solving those things. So I would say to you, Vessel, I hope I got that right. I would say to you, what don't you like about the way your long-range 7-inch flies? And then we'll take it from there. Be Free Bail Bonds gives $20. I never thought I would say that on a live stream. Be Free Bail Bonds gives $20 and says, I just built a new quad, tried the stock TBS Crossfire antenna, not the Immortal T. I'm getting low signal at 300 feet. No, the stock antenna is not that bad. You're doing something wrong. The stock antenna is fantastic. The biggest disadvantage of the stock antenna is that it can be a little harder to mount. So definitely make sure it's mounted correctly. Make sure it's not damaged, like if you accidentally ripped off the ground. And I would look at how you're mounting it. But frankly, if your output power is at like 250 milliwatts, sorry. If your output power is at 100, basically max, whatever it is, and you should get more than 300 feet, even if your antenna is just completely screwed up. So I would try another antenna. I would look at the way you're mounting it. Yeah, that's what I would do. It is not that bad. You should be getting great range on it. What's my take, Ninja Monkey FPV, what's my take on the Racer Star 2205 2600 kV motors? So Ninja Monkey FPV, if you're looking for a budget motor, the places I prefer to go right now are DYS Samguk for about $8 or $9. They are not great motors, but they're okay motors. And if you buy 6 of them instead of 4, then when you get one with a bad bearing out of the box, you'll have a spare and you'll probably still be ahead in terms of price. The Emax Eco motors are about $12, and they are 3 times as good as the Samguk motors for only 50% more price. They're still not like super top tier motors, but Emax makes a pretty solid motor at a decent price. The other one that I like these days is the 3B Trainer motors. 3B is actually a little bit under the radar in terms of motor manufacturer, but they've always made really good value motors in about the $17, $18 price range. Pretty solid motors, but they have a Trainer series, which is in about the $12 price range. So I would stay away from the person who should buy the Racer Star. I mean, I think the Racer Star motors are like down in the $6 range, and that's just the absolute cheapest you can possibly put motors on a quad. 2205 is pretty small these days for the kind of props and the kind of builds we're doing, so they're going to be they're not going to fly great. They're going to have low torque and not a lot of responsiveness. But if you, and the other thing is, at that price, they're going to die quickly and be like super not smooth. But if you need to spend like $6 on a motor, like I think you can get a set of 4 Racer Star motors for $24, which is the absolute cheapest you could possibly put motors on a quad these days. If that's your price point, then go for it. But I think you'll do better with the Samguks, or if you can get up to about $12 a motor, a really good value is the 3B Trainers or the Emax Eco. That's what I would say about that. Can filters be related to RX loss? No, if you're getting RX loss, that's unlikely to be related to your motor filters. I guess in theory, the motor noise could cause a brownout or something, but I don't know about that. That doesn't seem. Yeah, license to drive. The Emax Eco motors are often out of stock. That's a challenge. It is a challenge. So maybe are the 3Bs in stock right now at Get FPV? Let's see. The 3B Trainer, 3B Hobby, 2306, 2500 kV. They are in stock. So right this minute, they are in stock. If you choose to go to fpvknowitall.com/support me, that's also up here in the About page. And if you choose to click that Get FPV affiliate link before you go shop, that certainly is helpful as well. Another way you can help support me, just pointing out that these are in stock. The 3B Hobby Trainer. How about the Emax Eco? Are they in stock? No, out of stock. Oh well. So the 3B it is. Hello, MCP FPV, just getting here. C-Lab, thank you for your... Alex, do you see that? Alex, are you monitoring the Discord as well? No, you weren't, were you? Were you You were just tuning out. You think just because the stream got started that you don't have to pay attention. You need to be monitoring the stream. You need to be listening in the headphones to see if the audio is good. What if it's too hot and I don't know? Or if there's a glitch? You're not monitoring the chat either. The Discord, C-Lab says he's got a degree in audio production. What's your question, C-Lab? Where did I miss it? I'm sorry if I missed it. C-Lab over in the Discord wants to know. I have a Nirvana radio connected to the IA8X receiver. The receiver is wired to the Radix flight controller. I select discover new sensors in the radio, but it doesn't ever find any sensors. What am I missing here? So if you're C-Lab, if you are doing iBus telemetry, see, Alex, I missed the question. That question came in like a half hour ago and I didn't get to it. You're supposed to tell me about those things. Why am I wearing a monitor? I'm sorry, guys. C-Lab, get to your question. In the ports tab, C-Lab, if you enable Serial RX, if you're using FlySky, iBus, then what you need to do is enable iBus telemetry on the same UART that you have Serial RX. That's how you do that. That's not how you do, that's a little unusual because like when you do Crossfire, you don't enable telemetry at all. You just have Crossfire and telemetry is like baked in. For FreeSky, you enable SmartPort on a separate UART, and for iBus, that's how you do telemetry. So I'm going to guess, C-Lab, that you did not enable iBus telemetry in the ports tab. If you if that's the case, then let me know. If that's not the case, then I will try to help more. Well, you say C-Lab says, oh, that makes perfect sense, but it doesn't, because that's not how any of the other protocols work. If you're doing Spectrum telemetry, then you go to the, here's how, with Spectrum, you go to the configuration tab and you change the receiver protocol from, hang on, I'm going to screw up my, you change from Spectrum 2048 to Spectrum SRXL. That's how you enable telemetry for Spectrum. You don't do anything in the ports tab. For Crossfire, you don't do anything in the ports tab. You just set Crossfire and telemetry is built in. For SBus, you need to go to the ports tab and you enable telemetry on a different UART. And for iBus, you enable iBus telemetry on the same UART. So it's totally inconsistent as to how it works. But there you go. S-Grace asks, dual gyro working at the same time, hype or any future to it in this hobby? S-Grace, so let me just, again, throw up a screen here so people know what you're talking about. We're talking about the SP Racing F7 Dual, and the F7 Dual has dual gyros. All right, give me a graphic here. Dual gyros, where is it? Come on, help me out. No, come on. What a beautiful website. I just want to find the dual gyro thing. No, it's nowhere. Well, anyway, here's a nice picture of the board. It's got dual gyros and... Really? Can I zoom in? There we go. It's got dual gyros, and the gyros, here they are. You can actually see them in this picture, and you can see that they're mounted 90 degrees to each other. And this is not hype. This is actually a standard thing that is done in sensor applications. So a sensor engineer would have learned about this in sensor engineer school. By putting the gyros at 90 degrees to each other, the noise on one and the noise on the other can be canceled out without any filtering or without any latency. So you actually increase your signal to noise ratio. I think it's, I can't remember if it's 3 dB or 6 dB, so I'm not a sensor engineer. But basically, by doing this technique called sensor fusion, you get an increase in your signal to noise ratio. You get a decrease in noise without any filtering, processor overhead, or most importantly, delay. So it is not hype. Now, the question, and by the way, I point out the SP Racing F7. This was brought, I think this is the first production Betaflight flight controller to do sensor fusion. There's now one, I think it's from iFlight, that is doing the same thing. Betaflight does support it. Credit to Dominic Clifton, Mr. Clean Flight, for bringing us this innovation, though. And the question that I go to with sensor fusion is, do you need that additional sensitivity? If your quadcopter flies amazing with an MPU 6000 and standard filters, then do you need then this additional sensitivity? I don't know. In theory, you could use less filtering on this board to give you better prop wash handling and lower latency. So I don't think it's hype. Whether it takes hold in the hobby or not depends on whether we can get a quadcopter flying great without it. But it certainly may be. It definitely is not hype. Nick McBride says, I have the TBS Unify, and every time I plug in a battery, I have to go in and set and confirm the output power to get the picture to clear up enough to fly afterward. Nick McBride, I believe that your Unify is powering up in pit mode. You can change that by going in the OSD and go into the VTX SA menu and change the op mode. There's a parameter there called op mode. You may have to go into the configuration. It may not be in the standard menu, but it's right there in VTX SA. Poke around till you find op mode and change the op mode from R, racing, to F, freestyle. And that will prevent it from powering up in pit mode. That's it. Zoltan in the Discord asks, does anybody know if during flashing the FreeSky XM Plus receiver I accidentally flashed the internal module What the hell did I just flash? I don't know. It should not. I don't. Zoltan, I would say, does your internal module still work? The bottom line is, if you try to flash the wrong firmware, I think it should. I don't know. Should it just say, no, sir, you can't do that? Or will it let you go through with it? The bottom line is you should be able to reflash it with the correct firmware, Zoltan. I don't think you did any permanent damage. Jack Fu FPV says, farewell, are you leaving Rotor Riot 2? Why is everyone leaving? Jack Fu, I have no plans to leave Rotor Riot. You've probably seen on Tommy and Stingy's vlogs that they have, they're not, I know that they're not Rotor Riot employees anymore. I don't know whether they still intend to appear in Rotor Riot episodes, but they're no longer Rotor Riot employees. You can go check out their YouTube channels where they talk about their decision a little bit more. I have no plans to leave. I am having a great time. I'm really enjoying doing quad camp and getting to meet people. You may not know that. I mean, I love being in Rotor Riot episodes. It's super fun to get to hang out with all the cool guys and shoot episodes and make content. It lets me make a different kind of content than I make for my own channel. A content with more shouting and explosions. And frankly, it gets me out of the house. I don't really travel a lot on my own most of the time. So someone saying, come here now and fly with us. No, you have to, is really helpful for me. I get great content for my own channel as well, not just the Rotor Riot content, but I mean, some people think my vlogs are pretty entertaining. I only really make the vlogs when I go to Rotor Riot trips, quad camp trips, but also it lets me do the quad camp thing, which was my main reason for joining Rotor Riot, was to try to do quad camp with them. The ability to get out and meet the people who are watching my videos, meet people in the hobby, learn about what they are struggling with one-on-one instead of just through YouTube comments, and just, so I still intend to do all that. It is sad that the last of the original cast members are no longer there. But these things happen. Time goes on, and we still intend to keep making great content, just like we always did. Let's see here. What's the best split camera at the moment? Bounce Back FPV. That's a tough one. I don't have extensive experience with the Runcam Split Mini. So I've been playing with the Runcam Split Mini and the Caddx Turtle, and those are the 20 millimeter size cameras, not the 36 millimeter. The Caddx Turtle is on the Mobula 7 HD, which I have somewhere around here, and I've been, here it is, Mobula 7 HD review coming to my channel this week, it's been pretty good. I've been pretty happy with it. The latency is noticeable, but flyable, and the performance in the video is pretty good. I can't think of the last quad I flew with the Split Mini in it. The quad I flew with the Split Mini in it was the Baby Hawk R Pro, and it had all kinds of issues, but I thought that I heard that Runcam had fixed some of those issues, so I don't want to condemn it unfairly. I would say today, if I were buying one, it would be the Caddx Turtle, because I have personally been using the Caddx Turtle in a couple of different quads, and it's been good for me. That doesn't mean that the Split Mini is bad. It just means I haven't used it recently. And the other one that you should be aware of is the Foxier Mix, which is a Foxier version. And what I would say about that is, these mini and micro size split cameras with the built-in HD recording, every single one of them has had some kind of bad problem the very first version that came out. So unfortunately, Foxier, I would tell everybody to hold up on the Foxier Mix for like 3 months after it comes out until you know that it doesn't have a problem. And odds are it will, just because they all have. Blake Terra says turtle mode. Good boy, Max Beamer. I will not skip your question. Sorry, I just haven't got back to the Discord. Never fear, Max. I always try to get like a block of questions over in the chat, a block of questions over in the Discord. Don't worry, I'll get to you. Turtle mode spins the wrong direction. How do I change that? Asks Blake Terra. That probably means your ESC is not recognizing the D-Shot command. So make sure you update your ESC to the latest version of BL Heli, and that should make it work. Okay, Max Beamer, here I come. What did I miss? 2 questions. FPV camera is too bright, even with brightness almost all the way down. Is the image sensor toast? That's a tough one. You should definitely change the brightness on your goggles. Your goggles, your Fat Shark goggles or whatever display you have can adjust the brightness. On the Fat Shark goggles, it's the left hand joystick. Left and right is contrast, up and down is brightness. And that sounds dumb for me to point that out, but a lot of people don't actually know that. So definitely make sure you've adjusted the brightness on your goggles. If you then can't get it to look right, I guess the camera is toast. I don't know. What frequency is prop wash happening at generally? Max, generally prop wash is around, let's say it's around 100 hertz. I know that when we're tuning to get rid of prop wash, the valuable data that we need for flight is below about 50 to 80 hertz. I think prop wash is maybe around 100 to 150 hertz. Albert Kim is in the chat, back again, helping with the live stream. Thank you, Albert. I got to get to Sahib Alejandro, who gave 50 MX dollars. What's an MX dollar? Hang on. What is an MX dollar? Mexican pesos. Okay. No. MX? It must be pesos. Gives 50 pesos. Let's just assume Sahib doesn't sound like a Mexican name. I don't want to be racist, but anyway, he says Beta 75X has loose throttle only when hovering steady for 5 to 10 seconds. It never happens when flying around. I guess I'm not sure what loose throttle means, Sahib, and I'm sorry it's been so long since you asked your question. Sahib, if you want to try and clarify in the chat, I'll take a look for your name. I'm not really sure what loose throttle means, so I'm going to have to ask you for more feedback on that one. Thank you for your contribution. Let's see. When's the next Quad Camp event? David Briss asks, when is the next Quad Camp event? The schedule's blank. Yeah, David, as much as we would really like to have like a schedule of 6 or 7 booked up, like a concert tour, we kind of are scheduling them as we can here. We need to be a little more careful about where we run them to make sure that we're not losing money. And that's the bottom line. They're more expensive than a lot of people realize because of travel costs and so forth. So what we really are trying to do is find like sponsors who can help put the event on. And usually that means a hobby shop in your area. The most successful ones we've done have been like at Race Day Quads or at Get FPV or at X-Hover, where it's actually a retail store that can help support the event. It means that you can buy stuff when you come to the event. If you've got a piece like a motor or a flight controller you need to buy, it means that the store makes a little bit of money from people buying stuff. Everybody's happy. If you're looking to help bring Rotor Quad Camp to your area, the best thing you can do is find a nearby retailer who could have space, because obviously if we have to rent space, then that's no good. Who has space to hold about 25, 30, maybe 50, as much as 50 people at the highest, and who would be willing to help sort of contribute to bring us out there. That's the best thing you can do. For now, there is none actually scheduled, though. Ken Simmons, will Quad Camp be back in Illinois this year? So Horizon Hobby was the title sponsor there, and we would be, I'm sure, happy to go back out. We had a great time at that field. Ken, it was nice to meet you as well, and hold your hands while you flew your quadcopter. Yeah, nothing currently on the schedule. Yeah, good boy, Max Beamer. If your goggle's brightness is at 1, then something ain't right. The brightness may need to get turned up or down, but it shouldn't be at 1. That's way too low. That's way too low. So set it in the middle, which is about 11 or 12, I think. Wesley Chen asks, JB, I'm trying to get RSSI using my XM Plus. The manual says it outputs RSSI on channel 16, but Betaflight only detects 14 channels and channel 12 is not fluctuating. Wesley Chen, you need to flash the firmware. Let me just jump over here. FreeSky XM Plus firmware. What you need to do is go to the XM Plus FreeSky page, go to firmware and download. And in that zip file, you'll find firmware, look here, RSSI 16 and RSSI 8. If you flash this firmware, it'll put RSSI in channel 16. They don't do that from the factory, and I kind of wish they did. I guess in theory, if you were running fixed wing and you needed 16 channels, you'd be mad about that. But so many people using the XM Plus are quad pilots, and they want the RSSI on 16. It's very, very nice that the the full speed receivers. So full speed makes some receivers for FreeSky and Spectrum and others, and they come with RSSI output already working, and it's kind of annoying that the XM Plus doesn't. Tony Bracco, any plans for another Rampage event? Yes, definitely. We definitely want to do Rampage again this year, especially now that Race Day Quads is partnering with, well, I say partnering, they're co-owner of Rotor Riot. I think that the only thing that could have stopped us might have been budgetary issues, but especially with Race Day Quads backing Rotor Riot, I think that's much more likely to be possible. I know that there's nothing firm right now, but I did hear some people were like, well, we're going to go back to the same site. That site was awesome. And other people were like, well, what about the West Coast? So there's some thoughts about possibly looking in the West Coast, so people who couldn't make it to Florida or to Georgia may be able to attend. These are nothing firm, though. Let's see here. Valaki, why don't we just hold a quad camp at your place, Terminal CBL? We did that. We did that once. Let's see here. Can I explain why this Crossfire mod for Nirvana works? David Whaley. All right, let's do the. Oh, no. I don't want to. I didn't want to. I wanted to stay in chat. Where's that? Welcome to live chat. Yeah, thank you. Let's open that in a separate window. Oh, this is a good old Stinger Swarm here. Let's see what we got. Go over here. Why does this Crossfire mod work? First of all, can we just say, isn't Stingy's camera amazing? What a gorgeous. He runs the Sony A7. It's like a $2,000 body if you're looking to get one. And but geez, look how good his camera looks. Wow.
I have been promising this video for a while.
Okay,
that's
so
right.
Why does this mod work?
I'm going to just try to...
So it's like a 40-minute video. Why does this mod work? I'm afraid you're going to have to help me a little bit more, because I'm not sure. I mean, I did watch this video, but I'm not sure what about this mod you're wondering why it works. So David Whaley, if you could let me know, that would be great. Husco FPV, JB, Crossfire LQ dropped from 99 to 0. Is that check your antenna? I mean, if the LQ goes from 99 all the way to 0, I mean, I'm guessing, did you fail safe, Husco? I mean, if the LQ truly dropped to 0, you would fail safe. It actually seems to me maybe like there's some issue with, I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a tough one. Let's see here. I am currently designing a quadcopter using Arduino as a flight controller. The motors work fine during test, but the drone flips at takeoff. The first thing I would check is the motor, is that the alignment is correct, that the motor order is correct, and that the props are on correctly. Those are the three basic things you need to check. David Whaley, he removed the JST module. He removed the JST module. You mean he removed the FlySky module? And like just replaced it with the Tyrannus plug? Is that what he did? $507RC. I said people are talking in the chat about Futaba radios. I can't tell you. Alex Vanover is sponsored by Futaba and has a Futaba radio running Crossfire that he flies as his primary radio, and it is a beautiful, beautiful radio with a fantastic. It's just so well made, and the feel is so good. It's just like an $800 radio, and there's just no way I could possibly do that. So let's see here. Yeah, so I think what Stiggy did to his radio was just hardwired instead of using the pins. But all he did was solder his wires straight to the pins, and that let him get a lower profile build. There's nothing sort of, yeah, he just disconnected the pins and hard soldered wires to get a little lower profile. That's all. What are the differences in flight between true X and squished X frames? What do you think is the best to learn to fly juicy? Bounce back FPV, the big advantage of a squished X frame is that the props are to the side and you're less likely to see the props either in your FPV cam or in the GoPro. As far as flight handling differences, to be honest with you, the frame geometry is way less important than it used to be because the PID controllers have gotten so good that the PID controller can kind of make the most of whatever frame geometry you've got. So you'll see freestyle pilots flying squished X, and that just keeps the props out of view. You don't see a lot of freestyle pilots flying stretched X. It is true that the longer pitch axis gives you a little bit more stability on that axis, whereas a true X will be a little bit more neutral on all axes. So, yeah. I think true X or squished X is more useful for freestyle, but fly what you got. That's the bottom line. David Whaley, thank you for $10 in the super chat. No question, just thank you for $10. Am I still working on the Beast class? Yeah, I know I mentioned this earlier in the live stream, but I have it right here. I'm working. The first of the series should come out this week. It's being edited right now, and it's the buildup of the. Oh no, I don't want to lose that. It's the buildup of the PDB and ESCs, and that is coming. Darija, how to set up air mode. Can you show me how? So to set up a mode, a flight mode, Darija, sorry if I've mispronounced your name. All we're going to do is, hang on. I don't know why I have my headphones on. I'm not using them for anything. To set up a flight mode, yeah, this will work. All we're going to do is, hang on, is this the right, is my receiver, is this the right, hang on, let's go to receiver, yeah. So you need to get your receiver working, and you can see here in the receiver tab, I'm wheeling the sticks and my receiver is working. You're going to go to the modes tab. Well, actually, honestly, what I recommend you do is just go to the configuration tab and turn air mode on like this, and it'll be on all the time, and that's the end of it. But if you want it switchable as a mode, what you're going to do is you're going to go and find air mode. Where is it? Oh, it's not there because I have it turned on as a feature. Yeah, if it's turned on as a feature, it won't be in the modes tab because it simply can't be turned off. So now I'm going to save that. It's just going to screw up my configuration here. It's no big deal. In the flight modes, we're going to find air mode. Here it is. You're going to hit add range, and then you're going to flip the switch that you've got assigned to it, and when that channel moves, the aux channel will fill in here. You could manually set up the aux channel as well. So you can see as I'm flipping the switch, maybe you can hear me flipping the switch on my transmitter, the aux channel is moving. You're going to put the switch in the position that you want the air mode to be active. You're going to drag the slider over so it covers that position. And then you're going to hit save, and that switch will then activate and deactivate air mode. See, when you flip the switch. That's the gist of it. But honestly, I just recommend, personally, I prefer to just go to the configuration tab and turn air mode on as a feature. I have it on all the time. I never turn it off. And that's what I like to do. I just like it to be on all the time. Why would you turn air mode off? Let's talk about that for a second. Well, if you're like Ladrib, then he likes to do these skidding moves where he skids along the ground. And if air mode is on, the quad will hop instead of skidding smoothly. If you're like Mr. Steele likes to do these perches. Oh, Toby Sexton, I'm so sorry. Welcome to the hobby. Hang on. Welcome to the hobby, Toby Sexton. I am so sorry. Someone please help me find an instruction manual for the Wizard X220 HV. Toby, I have bad news for you. Nothing in this hobby has an instruction manual except my flight controller and a few others. There are a few things in this hobby that have an instruction manual, but the Wizard X220 HV is not one of them. Welcome to my channel. That's why I have a whole career built around making up for the fact that nobody in this hobby puts an instruction manual out. So, what is it you want to do? We'll try and help you. Fortunately, there's a great community. So reasons not to have air mode. If you're like Mr. Steele and you do perches, when you try to perch and disarm and land on a little ledge or something, as you're doing that, boom, 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 the quad will kind of bounce off. So turning off, and this is Betaflight, by the way. Air mode in KISS is a little different. I just mentioned Mr. Steele as an example of how to fly. So if you want to be able to do those things, you can have... no, there's no manual for the X220HV. No way. I'm shocked if that's true. It's impossible. So then you might turn air mode off if you want to do those moves. Oh my God. Wow. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. I can't believe they made a manual. That's amazing. I am so impressed. I'm so impressed. Does it actually tell you how to do anything? It kind of does. Well. No, that's it. Not sure it's actually useful. It shows how to arm using the stick. And it's got a list of specs for all the products. I mean, so kudos to them for actually putting out a manual, but it doesn't actually show you how to do anything useful, right? Oh, but it does exist. I eat my words. It does exist. Fair enough. Anyway, so if you want to do those things, you might decide you want to turn air mode off. But other than that, I leave air mode on all the time. Let's see. Velfirmla says in the Discord, says, after any sharp stick movements, my Tiny Hawk flutters, then regains stability. I'm using Mockingbird on acro. No, this is not just a given with Tiny Whoop. Velfirma, what I would say is probably your level strength is too high. Mockingbird has a really aggressive level strength, and it gives a very sharp stick feel, but it can cause fluttering, especially if you have copied a Mockingbird tune from a different micro to the Tiny Hawk. So I would try reducing the auto level strength or the level strength in the PID control tab and see if that fixes it. Lamont, did I get the picture of your Crossfire receiver that I asked you for? I might have. Where did you... I'm not... If we're having an offline conversation, then you should probably hit me up there. Like in my email or in Messenger. I'm probably not going to be able to dig it up on a live stream. If you sent me something and I didn't respond, definitely hit me up again. I usually respond, but sometimes I miss a message because I get a lot of messages. Jacob Martinson, I'm trying to get my RSSI to work on my Crossfire setup. I've enabled RQLY on my Nirvana, but I don't know what more to do. No, you don't. If you have Crossfire, you do not set up RSSI using the method where you go to the input screen. What you're going to do is you're going to go to your Crossfire menu. I need a down-facing desk camera here. Yeah, I can't really show it to you. I'd have to hold the radio up, and that's just not going to work. But in the Crossfire receiver output channel map, you can tell the Crossfire receiver to output link quality, LQ, as channel 8. And that's what you're going to do. You're not going to set it up in the Nirvana at all. Nothing. You will do nothing in the Nirvana to get Crossfire RSSI working. You'll go in the Nirvana and you'll configure the Crossfire receiver, but you're not going to go to the input screen. You're not going to go to the mixer or any of that stuff that you would do with FreeSky. In the Crossfire configuration, you're going to go to the receiver and you're going to go to the receiver output channel map and you're going to set channel 8 to be, or channel 12 if you're running in 12 channel mode. You're going to set that to be LQ. Then in Betaflight, you're going to look in the receiver tab and you're going to see channel 8 or channel 12 going up and down, and you'll set the RSSI channel in Betaflight to be channel 8 or 12. Will FreeSky access protocol be as fast as Crossfire? That's a good question. Let's just take a look here. What is FreeSky access protocol? You guys are in for a treat if you have not heard of this. FreeSky Access Protocol is an update to FreeSky's Air protocol that has some pretty freaking slick features. It supports 24 channels from full range. So if you need more than 16 channels, you can have them. I think most mini quad users aren't really going to benefit from this. And I would say I strongly suspect that if there's a low latency mode, it will not also support 24 channels. So probably the lowest latency mode is going to be fewer channels, maybe 8, I don't know. But faster speeds and more precision tricks than ever before. Less latency translates to quicker response time. Now, I don't know what the number is on this, and we won't really know the number until somebody actually tests it on the bench, but practically speaking, you know they're targeting Crossfire here, right? You know they're targeting Crossfire. So my guess is that they're shooting for a Crossfire-like latency in the single-digit milliseconds. Wireless binding updates and configuration. No longer need to access the receiver for binding? Hallelujah. You don't, somehow they're going to come up with a way to bind without pressing the bind button on the receiver. That's fantastic. If you have a receiver that's buried in the quad, being able to bind, update the firmware. Oh yeah, wireless over the air. This is one of the biggest things that Crossfire has over everyone else today is over the air firmware updates. You can update the firmware without plugging it into your computer. It's fantastic. You can share your models with other FreeSky users. Smart Share. I don't even know what that is. You can bind multiple transmitters to a receiver and Smart Share. What? So right now, you can only bind one transmitter to each receiver, which means if you want to let someone else fly your quad, you got to give them your transmitter. But it looks like here, you can bind multiple transmitters to a receiver and only one transmitter works at a time. Or if you fly competitively, you could set up 2 transmitters and have a spare one. If your transmitter dies or you break a switch, you can just switch to your spare transmitter without rebinding. That is something. That's pretty slick. I hadn't actually seen that yet. Channel remapping. So this is similar to what Crossfire does, where you can change the channel map in the transmitter. You can reorder the channel map in the transmitter. So this is especially useful if you're working with servos, but could be useful on quadcopter as well. Anyway, this is new. This is coming from FreeSky, and here's what's really interesting about this. Hang on. They're saying, yeah, here. Can I update the previous? Oh, I broke it. Hang on. Can I update previous FreeSky products to the Access Protocol firmware? They're saying that all previous and present FreeSky transmitters can be updated to the Access Protocol. X series, RX series, GX series will gradually be added to the supported list. Take this with a big grain of salt. Lots of times in the past, some company will say, oh yeah, oh, of course all the old hardware is going to be supported, and then it turns out it can't be. So take it with a grain of salt, but if that's true, that is really, really exciting. Really exciting. I mean, if all they did was add over-the-air firmware updates, I would be so hyped about it. Let's see here. How are we doing? Sahib, thank you again, Sahib, for the super chat. And if you need to keep corresponding, you don't have to keep giving me 50 pesos. But by loose throttle, I mean the quad falls to the ground even if I raise the throttle to max, like prop wash, but during steady hovering. That's pretty weird, Sahib. But it doesn't happen when you're flying around. It makes me wonder, Sahib, if there is one of your motors that is damaged. If any one motor on a quad loses power for any reason, the other motors will sort of scale themselves down to match. But what's really strange is, why does it not happen when you're flying around, only when you're hovering steady? Do you know if the Beta 75X has black box? Because if it has a black box chip, it would be super good to pull the black box from the flight controller and see what is happening to the motors and to the throttle when this is happening. Yeah. I mean, if you raise the throttle to max, the motors should spin up. That's just how it should work. Be Free Bail Bonds. No, I already got you, Be Free Bail Bonds. Sebastian Jessen, thank you for DKK 33. I don't know what a DKK is, but thank you. Any early info on the TrueDX? Brad Barlow, I have tested the TrueDX I was sent a TrueDX prototype. This is kind of information you'll only find on live streams. I tested it, and I can't tell you what the results were, but Furious FPV said, that's interesting. Let me send you another one. We thought that would happen. Let us send you another one. So the bottom line is I want to get you guys test results as soon as possible, but I want to, well, the thing is, at the end of the day, I'm going to buy a TrueDX from retail and test it, because I never like to release test results on hardware that manufacturers have sent me, especially if it's like a one-off. I mean, if I get batteries for testing and I get the batteries from GetFPV, there's no cherry picking there. They just pulled 2 batteries off the shelf. It's the exact same batteries they would have sold to you. But if like Tattoo sends me a battery, I'm not going to want to publish those results because they could have cherry picked something. Who knows? And in this case, Furious FPV sent me a TrueDX, and then they said, let us send you another one. We think the results could have been better. We don't think those results are as good as we expected. And I mean, they're sending me this product before it's available to the public. So I kind of have to, if I say, nah, screw you, I'm publishing this, they're going to go, well, I'm not going to send you any, you can just get the results the same as everybody else. So, so I have preliminary results, but I don't know if they're final yet. And I won't know if they're final until I purchase a unit at retail. If they send me a unit and it's wonderful, well, I say that's cool, but it still doesn't guarantee that it's not some cherry-picked, hand-tuned unit. That's the bottom line. Right now, as of right now, my official position is that rapid fire is the best. Some of you are going to be a little surprised to hear that, because in some of the testing I've done, some of the tests, other units were picked as better. But I got to say, overall, I think rapid fire is just clearly better in almost every case. And once in a while, you'll get a case where another unit beats it. But if you had to decide which one to buy, there's just no question to me that rapid fire is the one to pick. It's way more expensive. And the thing is, rapid fire might be 15% better. But that 15% where it's better is in the worst possible cases. And that's where you really need it. So if you don't push to the edge of your range, you could spend $80 on. So I've tested the Furious FPV Achilles module as well. I haven't published these results yet, and it was pretty decent. So it's only like $80. It's like half as expensive as a rapid fire. For most people, yeah, just save the $80 and get something like the Furious Achilles module. But for pilots who have a little bit more money to spend, there definitely is an advantage to the rapid fire, and I think it's clearly the best. RTM Zila 7, how do I check if the channel I'm trying to bind is not taken by another quad on the Taranis X9D? I think what you mean is the receiver number. When you're binding, the Taranis picks a receiver number, and if you try to bind to a pre-existing receiver number, then you'll get a warning. But you can reuse the receiver numbers if you want. There's no reason that you can't. There's no real way to see who's bound on which receiver number, though. You can't really do that. Does rapid fire work on the Eachine EV200D? Snots World, I would not expect the rapid fire to work in quadversity mode on the EV200D. I think you could put the rapid fire into an EV200D and just leave the other side blank. Have I tested quadversity on the Eachine 200D against other modules? Mike Jacoby, I did. I tested way back when I first got the EV200D in my very first blind testing. You can look up those blind testing results, and you can actually find the results right here on my website, Best Fat Shark FPV Receiver. These are the results from the testing that had the EV200D. The EV200D did worse than the rapid fire, but were not tested against any other modules in the test. So we don't know at this time whether the EV200D is better or worse than like a True D or a Owl RC. But we do know that the EV200D is not as good as a rapid fire, at least in this one test. I have to say, and I'm going to be updating the Ultimate FPV shopping list. My website has the, in case you didn't already know, my website, I have the, that is not the home button, Joshua. There we go. Home. and then immediately hits the back button. So why did I go home? I don't know. The ultimate FPV shopping list is my list of product recommendations. I'm constantly updating it, although some people wonder if I'm updating it because, for example, the EV800D has been my recommended cheapest worth having goggle ever since the list first came out. And the thing is, I don't really chase trends. I want the list to be solid recommendations. And so when a brand new product comes out, it looks good, I don't immediately update the list and say, this is the new best. I want you guys to know that you're getting a solid recommendation, not the maybe the latest and greatest. But I am updating it constantly. Whoops, wrong. There we go. I am updating it constantly. It was last updated March 10th. I've started adding that to the top so you guys know I haven't just abandoned it. And I don't actually have the EV200D on here. Fat Shark has actually recently kind of abandoned the $300 price point. And the Falcon FG01 is solid, but it's not available almost anywhere. It's kind of discontinued. Is it even still available at Amazon? It is. It's still out there. But I'm going to add the EV200D. I think it's a really solid choice at that price range, especially now that Fat Shark has been abandoned it. What is the max voltage I can use for the Fat Shark teleporter? Asks Simon Saucy. I mean, I know it's 2S. I'm not sure if you can use 3S. It's been so long since I've even thought about the Fat Shark teleporter, to be honest with you. Let's just look right here. Fat Shark teleporter, discontinued. No kidding. So I know it takes a 2S. Most Fat Shark goggles can also take 3S, but not the fan. But I don't think the teleporter has a fan. If I had a teleporter, I would use 2S only. Let's just check the manual and see if they have a max voltage. Hang on. No, where's the voltage? Where's the specs? Battery. Do they have the specs? Yikes. I remember, yeah. 7.4. So it doesn't say any max voltage, but it just is designed for a 2-cell, so I'd probably stick to 2-cell. Yeah, I would probably stick to 2-cell, unless you can find evidence that it takes... Here we go. Specifications. Battery. Which again, it just says 7.4 volts. Nowhere does it seem to say that you can use a 3-cell, so I would stick to 2-cell. Terminal LCPL, I didn't say a manual doesn't exist for anything. I'm just shocked that it exists for the freaking Wizard, the Ishin Wizard, the cheapest thing that you could possibly buy. Warman asks over in the Discord, in case you just got here, I have a Discord server that's available for my patrons only. One of the few advantages I give to, I should be doing a lot more, but I'm just so freaking busy. I don't make special content for patrons. One of the few things I do for my patrons is I give them a Discord server where they can chat with me. You know, I'll log in over coffee in the morning and see what's up. And they also get priority access during the live streams. So Warman asks in the Discord, what could cause a quad to intermittently only transmit video for a split second when first plugging in? Sometimes I see video for a second, then it stops. So Warman, that's a tough one. What I would do is if you're using smart audio, disconnect or disable smart audio. The easiest thing to do is don't take your soldering iron out. Just go to the ports tab and turn smart audio off in the ports tab. The first guess that I have is that it is changing its output power or changing its, it must be output power because it can't be channel. That is changing its output power, and when smart audio updates it, it quickly glitches slightly. That's the first thing I would do. Warman, if you're not using smart audio, then that's a trickier question. But that's the direction I would go with that. Eric B, thank you for $10. I'm super new to FPV in the community, but I've already learned a ton. Oh, well, thank you. I've already learned a ton from you. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. I thought there was a question there. James Duffy, is there any reason why a flight controller would not support telemetry output? On my Babyhawk R Pro, I've connected UART1 TX to my smart port on my RXSR, enabled in BF, direct and soft serial, no dice. James Duffy, the number one reason why a smart port wouldn't work is that inversion has to do with, so SmartPort is an inverted serial protocol, and the UARTs on an F4 flight controller do not support inversion. So simply using UART1 TX would not work. What I would do in your case is I would use the P pad on the RXSR. Let's just pull up that. Let's just pull that up real quick. Let's find a pinout for that. Here we go. No. Here they are. Yeah. So if you look right here at this image, here's the B pad and here's the P pad. And the P pad is used for uninverted SmartPort. So what you're going to do is you're going to solder the yellow SmartPort wire to this tiny pad. If you're not good at soldering, or if your soldering iron is too hot, you'll lift the pad. So be super careful. But you're going to solder your SmartPort wire there. You're going to connect that to TX1. Wait a minute. On the Baby Hawk, is UART1 already used for serial RX? Hang on. Let's look up the flight controller here. Here's the Magnum F4 flight controller, and these right here, I think these are the spare. Here we go. This is, oh, can I have a bigger picture, please? Hold on, guys. On the F4, there we go. Yeah. So here's TX3, RX3, TX6, and RX6. Is this one? Yeah, TX1. Okay, so what UART is the receiver connected to? I think the receiver is already on RX1, so I don't think you should use TX1. Yeah. See, look right here. S-Bus is already using RX1, so you cannot use TX1 for SmartPort. It doesn't work that way. I wish it did, but it doesn't. So what you're going to do is you're going to use TX3 right here. Use TX3, and you're going to connect that to the P pad on your RXSR, and then you're going to need to go into the CLI, and you're going to need to type set TLM, damn it, TLM inverted equals on. You need to do that whenever you use that P pad, and that should do it. But if it were me, here's what I would do. If it were me, I would use one of these motor outputs like S6. I would remap that motor output to soft serial, and I would use soft serial, because if you use soft serial, you do not have to use the P pad on the RXSR. You can just use the regular output, and you don't have to solder to this little tiny pad. What I suggest is, this is a video I made showing how to do SmartPort telemetry on the Maytech F405, and the exact same procedure, I'm going to paste this in the chat, the exact same procedure will work on the Magnum, but you're going to remap, in the video I remap to LED strip, and you're going to want to remap to Motor 5 or Motor 6. In the video I'm doing it on the F405, you're doing it on the Magnum, so the pin number will be different, but the process will be exactly the same. A Volate FPV says soft serial will use more CPU. If you can solder, use the P-pad. A Volate, that was true for the F3s and especially the F1s. On the F4s, gosh, on the F4 processor, you have plenty of CPU utilization. There's no downside to running soft serial, in my opinion. Brad Barlow points out it's much easier to run F-port. Yes, Brad Barlow, if you can set up F-port, then you get telemetry and control in a single wire and a single UART. And as a bonus, RSSI is transmitted automatically with F-port without doing any additional configuration. The downside of F-port is you have to flash the receiver, and some people struggle to flash the receiver. But what you could do, if you prefer, is go to FreeSky's website and download and flash the F-port firmware for it. Where's the downloads? Where's the downloads? Well, anyway, download the F-port firmware and flash it and use F-port. I do have a video on setting up F-port. The problem, you can check out my F-port video if you want. The problem with that is that you will need to use the P-pad, because F-port is inverted, and you can't, and the F4 Magnum F4 doesn't have any inverted UART, so that's a little annoying. Brad Barlow, this is a kind of a toss-up. Bob Mulch gives 20 bucks and says, please deduct this amount from my hourly bill. Ha ha ha. Bob's been chatting me a lot on Facebook, and that's his way of contributing back. And I do want to say, as much as I, occasionally I go out of my way to say, hey, by the way, this is my full-time job, and I sure appreciate your support. I do help everybody. If you want to get in touch with me, the worst way to get in touch with me is to ask a question on the YouTube channel, because I get so many YouTube comments that YouTube doesn't show me all of them. I answer every single one that I can see that is asking a question. I try to answer it, but if you really want to ask a question, the best thing to do is to ask me in Facebook Messenger or via Gmail. You can just reach out. And if you just need some help, I'm happy to do it. And if you find yourself in a position where you can give a little back, that's appreciated but not required. RC Aviation, can I fix my CP antenna if the wire in the middle turns? It depends, RC Aviation, on what antenna type you've got. If you have like a VAS ion antenna, it's actually the top is intended to turn, but on some of them that would mean it's broken, and then it would be probably not fixable for most people. What freestyle frame do I recommend for around 50 bucks R12? I'm a big fan of the Dingo frame from Sabotage RC, which is Armatan's budget line. Also, the Source One frame from TBS is a great choice, and they come in around 25, 35 bucks. You can spend that extra money on spare arms. Monoman points out that one of the companies in this hobby that is making amazing manuals is Brain FPV. Brain FPV has a great manual for their flight controller and definitely deserve credit for that. Maytech also has great documentation. They don't put out manuals per se, but their website for their flight controllers is stupid good. Chamber says, stop getting upset. You don't do enough for us when you do more than enough. Nah, Chamber, I'm not upset. I'm just self-deprecating a little bit. That's all. Chamber says he could soft serial TX1 and use it for smart port. I think that might work. If you're hard up for pins on a flight controller, like on that Magnum F4, you've got motor output 5 and 6. And I would use those because you're not running a hexacopter and you never will be. If you're hard up for pins, like if you look at like the Racer Star F4S flight controller. Hang on. Let's look up the Racer Star F4S so you guys can know what I'm talking about. If you look up the Racer Star F4S flight controller, it has very few pins and very few spare UARTs. Can I have a big image? No? There we go. Has very few pins, and so if you wanted to do any resource reassignment, you might struggle to find a pin to work with. Sometimes you can use, you could use TX3 or TX6 for smart audio and remap TX or RX6 to soft serial and use it for something else. A lot of times you can get away with remapping the UART pins to soft serial and they will work. If you try and remap a UART to another UART, that usually doesn't work. You can't move UART 1 to the UART 6 pins. That won't work. But turning a UART pin into soft serial sometimes, not always, but sometimes will work. Bob Much. Did I say Mulch, Bob? I'm sorry. For 20 bucks, I should at least get your name right. Simon Saucy was just flying and chopped a tiny little bit of the FreeSky XM Plus receiver. Still seems fine. Is there any need to replace it? Simon Saucy, I probably wouldn't replace it. It depends on how much you chopped. But you have diversity, so you have two antennas, and you're going to see a small reduction in range. But if your range seems okay, then you probably would just keep going. Yeah, Sinister FPV points out that the manual for the Riot Control flight controller has using TX1 for soft serial. I usually don't go that direction because sometimes I think it won't work, and I try to provide solutions that I'm sure will work for everybody, but it is an option. Drone Junkies UK asks, should I wrap the signal ground around the ESC signal wire to reduce noise? Also, if I reduce from DShot 1200 to 600, will that reduce noise? Yes, Drone Junkies, if you go from DShot 1200 to 600, it will reduce not only noise, but also signal corruption. I've seen cases where going from DShot 1200 to 600 actually made the video cleaner, if you can believe that, because there was just less electrical noise in the system for the lower frequency signal. Wrapping the signal ground, I think that has minimal benefit, honestly. So it can have a benefit, but I think these wires are so short that they're not picking up a lot of noise to begin with. So wrapping the signal ground around the signal, I'm not sure about that. I don't think that's really necessary. Max Rackstraw asks, what's my favorite flight controller? That's a tough one, Max. That's a tough one. I think one of the most versatile and full-featured flight controllers today is the Holybro Kakute F7. It has a nice pad layout. It doesn't have a built-in PDB. It's really more for people who are using 4-in-1 ESCs. I think a lot of people are these days, though. So the Kakute F7 has a lot of UARTs, a lot of functions, spare motor outputs. It's why I chose it for my ultimate freestyle build. A lot of people were surprised that I didn't choose my own flight controller, but for that build, I kind of wanted to just go all out, and I wanted to put an F7 on it, and the JB F7 doesn't exist yet. So the other one that I like a lot is, well, the Luminaire Lux F7 Ultimate is very, very full-featured, but it puts pads on the underside of the board, so you have to flip the board over to solder to it and then flip it back over, and that kind of annoys me. The Maytech F7 SE is basically the same flight controller as the Luminaire Lux Ultimate, but it has a built-in PDB, and it has all the pads on top, which I kind of like. So those are some things. Let's see. Is it discouraged? Snorkel FPV says, is it discouraged to use an all-in-one flight controller if you're using a 4-in-1 ESC? I'm not sure I want to have VBAT on all the corners open. Snorkel, I would, the reason I stay away from all-in-one flight controllers when I'm using a 4-in-1 ESC is that those extra ESC pads on an all-in-one flight controller just take up so much space. The pad layout is usually a lot more restricted. Whereas if you look at the non-all-in-one flight controllers, they just have so much more room. You'll see more UARTs broken out. You'll see more larger solder pads and just a nicer layout to work with. There's no reason you couldn't do that. And Snorkel FPV, having VBAT on the corners, I mean, you could just coat that with conformal and be good. But I stay away from all-in-ones if I'm using a 4-in-1 ESC, mostly because the all-in-ones have a more constrained pad layout. Thoughts on the Tyro 99, Simon Saucy asks. I know enough people who have used the Tyro 99 and had an okay experience with it that the Tyro 99 is an okay. Any $99 build has so many compromises, though, that I really think more like the $150 or $200 price point is the right place to get into the hobby. If you just can't bring yourself to swing that much, then the Tyro 99 is a fine choice. But I think you get a lot more value when you open yourself up to around $200. Like the Tyro 99, you'll bash the shit out of it. You'll break it pretty quickly. I know, fill up the comments with people saying they've had their Tyro 99 for 6 months and flew it through a concrete wall with no problems. And not everybody will have that experience, but the Tyro 99. Now, that's interesting. Snots World, do you think the Tyro 79 is better? I confess I haven't looked closely at the Tyro 79. When I heard it was, I just figured it was 20 less than the 99. Why is the 79 better, Snots World? Let us know. Loop UAV plans to do German videos with a lot of stuff stolen from my videos with my added thoughts. Will you sue me? Loop UAV, I probably won't sue you, but if you intend to actually use my actual video content in your videos, we should talk beforehand. I generally don't prefer people to take my content and then recompile it. Like there was somebody, there's one guy out there who does these 10-second Joshua B videos, which are hilarious and I love. But there was another channel that took like 20 minutes of content from my trick tutorials and put it up. And I was like, no, that's not okay. So Loop UAV, if you're interested in doing something like that, I actually have a couple other channels for people who translate my content to other languages. And what I do is I create the channel and I make you an admin on the channel so you can post the content, but I still own the channel. And then if the channel ever gets to a point where it's eligible for monetization, we'll work something out. That's the way I prefer to do that. So if you're interested in doing that, Loop UAV, we can talk. But in general, if you're substantially using my content, I'd rather I be in on it with you, as opposed to you just taking the content and doing something with it. The 79 is not great and has better performance The 99 felt off for a cheap quad. I didn't mind the 79. There's a 109 with a much better camera. Ghost Viper, every antenna is either left-hand polarized, right-hand polarized, or linear. If you have a left-hand polarized antenna, you need to have a left-hand polarized antenna on both the goggles and the quad. If an antenna doesn't say, then it's either linear or sometimes they're right-hand polarized and they just don't say. Monoman, I have a video out about the shake and bake style coating, the drone dry shake and bake. So I have a video where I reviewed that. Monoman, if you search for drone dry, Joshua Bardwell, you'll find my review of it. Nix asks, do I know of a module that will work in the Nirvana for FreeSky? Nix over on the Discord asks. Yeah, Nix, if you just get the FreeSky XM Plus module or the XJT, the FreeSky XJT module will work. Or, honestly, I would be looking, I mean, if you're buying the module anyway, I would be looking at a multi-protocol module like this one from Jumper. I'm not going to take it out, but you can get this multi-protocol module and it will do FreeSky and a million other things. So, but if you just want a FreeSky module for the Nirvana, get the XJT module from FreeSky. Wesley Withers gives $5 in the super chat and asks recommendations on getting better throttle resolution on the lower half of the stick for my B-Brain V2 and FreeSky X-Lite. Wesley Withers, the first thing I would say is make sure your endpoints are working correctly. So here in Betaflight, in the receiver tab, hold on. Let's get over there real quick. Here in Betaflight, in the receiver tab, come on. What are we doing? There we go. In the receiver tab, you need to see that your channels go from 2000 to 1000. And if they don't do that, you need to adjust the adjust the endpoints. Sorry, adjust the endpoints in your transmitter so that the channels go from 1000 to 2000. There's also a method you can use to do that using the RX range command in the CLI. I have a video about that. You can learn more about this in my video. Learn to build a racing drone part 11, Betaflight receiver tab. I show how to set the endpoints correctly there. Once you have the endpoints set correctly, the next thing to do is to adjust the stick low threshold to 1005. And the stick low threshold, the throttle needs to go below the stick low threshold in order for the quad to be able to arm. So if you haven't set your endpoints correctly, your stick low, when you got the throttle all the way down, it might be at 1070. At which point you couldn't set the stick low threshold to 1005. So first set your endpoints, then set your stick low threshold to 1005, and that will ensure that you have maximum throttle resolution. Then if you still don't have enough throttle resolution and struggle to hover, the next thing you can do is turn down your throttle scaling. And the command to do that is, no, what is it? What's the, I can't remember the command off the top of my head. Throttle limit %, that's it. So what you want to do is, these are the commands right here. You're going to type set throttle limit type equals scale, and set throttle limit % equals, and you can set that to 50 or 60 or 75%, and that'll reduce the throttle overall, and that'll have the effect of making it easier for you to hover. It basically just stretches the throttle up. It'll also reduce your top end, but I'm going to guess if you're struggling to hover, you probably don't need that top end anyway. That's my suggestions, Wesley Withers. The last thing you could do is you could use Throttle Expo, but I actually don't really like to recommend Throttle Expo. I think that a linear throttle is best. Let's see here. Which would I pick? Newbie FPV asks, which would I pick? The SkyZone Sky02 and the EV200D. That's a very tough one. That's a very tough one, Newbie FPV. The SkyZone Sky02 has widescreen, has 16:9 screens. So does the EV200D. The Sky02 has built-in receivers. The EV200D has modules. The Sky02 has a better quality image, but I think it's smaller. the Sky Zone is better hardware overall, I think. I think the EV200D, you got a little bit of bad luck sometimes when you buy one. The Sky Zone is pretty solid, and Sky Zone as a company is pretty solid. Eachine is not bad as a company, but I don't feel like they have exceptional user support. So I would probably take the EV200D. The bigger screens, and EV200D has quadversity, which means in theory you have better options for getting better coverage in different situations. That's what I would say. Teflon, is it allowed to fly around wind turbines? You have to ask the guy that owns the wind turbine, Teflon. Generally, the answer is no. And I can tell you, when we were in Belgium and flying in a certain area of Belgium, there was a wind turbine, and the guys said that they had been told if you smack the wind turbine, it's €1,000,000. So if you damage a wind turbine, it will be very expensive. That being said, we flew around wind turbines in Puerto Rico, but they had already been destroyed by the hurricane, so there was no real risk. Nix in the Discord asks, will I have any reviews on the iFlight Twing flight controller? Let's look at it. Let's look at the iFlight Twing flight controller. Now this is the other flight controller that has sensor fusion. It has dual ICM 2689 gyros, similar to the SB Racing F7 that I showed earlier in the stream. And they are also, as you can see, mounted 90 degrees to each other. Actually, they're not quite exactly 90 degrees. That one's a little crooked, but they're slightly crooked. But anyway, and it's doing the sensor fusion. That's cool. We talked about that earlier. What else has it got? Oh, the underside is not very populated. It's kind of a dead under. What's this thing? It's got that's a flash chip, Winbond flash chip. That's bigger than they usually are. I wonder if it's the 128 meg flash chip that the Steel Racing F7 is using. 6.2 grams, good for you. Let's see, what kind of a pad? I want to look at the pad layout. F7, that's fine. Sensor fusion, that's good. 32 meg flash, so that's more than you typically get. You usually get 16 meg. 32 meg flash. No, wait. That's megabits. Sorry, you usually get 16 megabytes. That doesn't seem right. That flash chip, I think that's maybe 32 megabytes. Somebody look up the 25Q2567 and tell me what the size is. That looks bigger than usual. VTX plug. Oh, yeah, okay. I guess I don't really care about that. Current sense input. That's good. Here, here's a pad layout. That's what I really want to see. Do a little mini review right here. What I always look at is the pad layout. So we've got 1, 3, 4, and 5. We've got 4 UARTs. That's not bad. 3.3 volt output for Spectrum or a GPS unit. If you've got one of those GPS units that needs 3.3, that's good. LED strip output. Mostly you're going to use, most people aren't using that for LEDs. They're using that for soft serial. But that's nice. And since this is an F7, you don't have to worry about inversion. That's all taken care of. Well, there's like nothing on this board. Where is everything? It's all on the underside. It's such a sparse board. I mean, with the take this off and give me an SD card slot. iFlight, you have plenty of room on this board. Give me an SD card reader. Why not? Let's see. 7 motor outputs, 8 motor outputs. Is that right? Sheesh. Oh, I see. 1, 2, 3, 4 are in the plug, and then another 4 here. That's kind of cool. Are they duplicate? No, M1, M2, M3, M4. They're duplicated here for solder points. That's nice. Extra motor outputs if you're going to do a hexacopter or an octocopter, but also just good spare motor outputs to remap to other things. Camera, video out. No camera control, but that's okay. You could just use a run cam with what's T2 doing over here? That must be UART2. That must be for smart audio. So you're not going to tie up one of these UARTs for smart audio. That's good. And it's $43. It looks like a pretty solid flight controller, honestly. It's pretty solid. Looks pretty solid. Yeah, I like it. I like it. There you go. Yeah, Sean Henson, no worries about an SD card ejection with a data flash chip, but the problem is the data flash chips fill up in 1 or 2 flights in my experience, and so you have to constantly be offloading them in the field. Whereas with an SD card, you just fly all day and then you grab those files. I find myself much less likely to come home with black box if I'm using a data flash, and I seldom have problems with ejection. In fact, now that you can read an SD card in Betaflight simply by plugging into USB, you don't actually ever have to take the SD card out. You could just hot glue it in if you really cared about that. David Whaley gives $5 in the super chat and says, I never miss an episode. This community changed my life. Please, more long-range FPV, Nirvana, Crossfire, 7-inch, and ground station reviews. That's a tough one, David. I appreciate your support, but I don't do a ton of long-range stuff. And one reason I don't do a lot of long-range stuff is it's very questionable whether beyond visual line of sight is legal in the United States. Now, some people would look at me flying around my property and go, hey, you flew behind the barn. You were BVLOS. And some people would say, when you came in and landed, I didn't see anybody standing next to you spotting for you. And so some people would say the flights I'm doing on my property now are not legal. But it's a whole different ball game when you start doing long range stuff. And I just don't know if I want to go there. Double A wonders, what happens when one of those gyros go bad? Will just one of the two still work? If the gyros are giving divergent information, I think you will get bad information. It's certainly possible in Betaflight that you could disable one in software and cause it to be ignored. But if you're doing sensor fusion and one of the gyros is going bad, I think you're going to see problems. Yeah. Joseph Dawson asks, I know you're testing the Mobula 7 HD. Any plans to test the Beta FPV 85X HD? So here's what I say in my review of the Mobula 7 HD about the Beta 85X HD. The Beta 85X was designed to run on 4S, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 85 millimeters. It's bigger than the Mobula 7 HD. So it is a bigger and heavier quad designed to run on 4S. Then they had problems with the ESCs lighting on fire, and they tracked it down. And to their credit, by the way, Beta FPV handled the fiery ESCs exactly how you should. They acknowledged the problem. They, as far as I know, they replaced parts for customers who had the light on fire. But the bottom line is they said the ESC is not recommended to run on 4S. Basically, the ESC is lights on fire when you run it on 4S. So with the Beta 85X, it was designed as a bigger, heavier quad and designed to run on 4S, but now you have to run it on 3S, which makes me think if you're going to be running on 3S anyway, shouldn't you just get the Mobula 7 HD, which was designed to run on 3S? So I don't know if I'll be reviewing the 85X. I think my gut feeling is that the Mobula 7 is probably the better quad. However, a bigger quad could have advantages in terms of smooth flight. It could be more stable, so maybe. But no, that's how I feel about it as of today. Any plans on building a toothpick? That's the quad from Kebab. I don't know. I have such limited building time. And right now my build time is being spent on something a lot bigger than a toothpick. You know, you're right, Joseph Dawson. I am making a lot of assumptions. Sean Henson, I've plugged the Beast class earlier. I'm working on it. First build video to come out this week. Joseph Dawson, you're right. That's a lot of assumptions about the 85X that may not be right. That's just how I feel about it today. I could be wrong. Let's see. Shutterbug 85 HD is the best HD whoop. I have never even heard of the Shutterbug 85 HD. Any 7-inch build coming soon. Props Off FPV Multicopter Builders has sent me one of their 7-inch cinematic builds that I will be testing. I won't be building it, but I will be testing and flying it. Any plans for my own props, asks Lowkey FPV. I'll be going to the Discord next, Sasquatch. Any plans for my own props? The prop I'm liking the most right now is the GemFan Hurricane 51499. That is specifically suited to my JB2407 motor. It may be over-propped for smaller motors, but on my particular motor, I'm loving that prop right now. Sasquatch in the Discord asks, last week you gave me some pointers on troubleshooting my Tiny Hawk. It was an issue with either the motor or the ESC. Turned out to be the motor. Lucky you, because if it was the ESC, you'd be replacing the flight controller too. This week I had another motor dipping, so I upgraded all the motors to 16,500 kV. Have you heard anything good or bad about those? I haven't, Sasquatch. What was the kV on the original? What was the kV on the original Tiny Hawk, Sasquatch? Albert, Monoman points out, Albert just reviewed the 85X, sounded like it had jello issues. On the Albert Kim is in the chat. Albert, have you flown the Mobula 7 HD at all? And if you have any comments, I should just search his channel. But he might not have reviewed it yet. Albert Kim, Mobula 7 HD. Albert Kim, if you don't, I mean, I'm sure you know who he is, but no. Albert Kim, Mobula 7 HD. Well, here we've got UAV Futures, who reviews the Mobula 7 HD, and shocker, I'm sure he loved it. But what about Albert Kim? HD Beta 75X. I don't see a review from Albert Kim of the Mobula 7 HD. Oh, here we go. Mobula 7 HD. So I am not going to watch his whole review here on the channel, but we definitely, if you care about the Mobula 7 HD, my review's not out yet. Definitely check him out as well. Albert seems to focus a little more on the micro stuff than I do. I'm more focused on 5-inch, and he's definitely worth checking out, his opinions on these things. What does he say? Yeah, he had jello issues on his Mobula 7 HD. That's a shame. I would say that if I cherry pick the footage, I can find cases where there was jello. But in general, I thought the video from the Mobula 7 HD was solid. I didn't think it was like ruined by jello. I don't know, Albert. Did you think it was like, no, it's ruined? Yeah. I thought it was pretty solid. Here, I can actually... Hang on, I'll show you guys. Yeah, let's see. I actually have some footage. Let's look at some footage from the CADX. Hold on, though. I have to make sure that you guys don't get your ears ruined by this DVR footage. Hold on. Let's see. Let me find the footage. Yeah, here's some footage. Hang on. Let me mute this, because the mic on this thing is ridiculous. It's when the motor starts spinning, it's awful. The motor noise is awful. Let's see if we get some jello in this. Here we go. It's muted, so you're not going to hear anything except me talking. And if we're watching on the live stream, you're probably going to see some blocking and stuff because the live stream is not at a very high bit rate. But I'm not seeing any jello. It's looking decent to me. So this is the footage from the CADX Turtle in the Mobula 7 HD. It's not bad. The other one that I tried was the Tiny Leader HD, and I had bad results from it. It didn't fly well for me, and it didn't fly well as an acro quad, nor did it fly well as a smooth cinematic quad, and it died about a week after I got it. It just died. So I'm feeling, I mean, the full review of the Mobula 7 HD is not out yet. It'll be coming out in a day or two, but I'm feeling generally positive about it. What do you guys think? Let's look in the chat. What do you guys think? YouTube compression hides jello. Yeah, Bot Grinder's here. Bot Grinder's awake. I'm trying to get Bot Grinder to play Apex Legends with me over on our Twitch channels. Would you guys be into that? I'm totally being manipulative right now because you're all going to go, yes, do it. And then he'll have to do it. Yeah, I know it hides jello. I mean, I I mean, I can link you guys to the original footage. Maybe I'll do that. The video that I'm going to put up as a review is going to be 2.7K, so you can watch it in highest bitrate possible. Yeah, Diego Pedro. I would fly around somebody with a 75 millimeter closed prop. I don't think there's any disadvantage to that. Holy crap. Hang on. Oh my gosh. Look at this. Look right here. Look at this airplane trail in the sky. Do you see this? Hang on. Look what it does. Hang on. Where is it? No, it was at 47. Holy shnikes. Look at this. Watch this. Watch this contrail in the sky. Do you see that it jumps? Does it really do that? It's like jumping. I don't know if the live stream is picking that up. I'm going to frame by frame it. Hang on. And okay, here, look right here. Frame, boom. Do you see that? Boom. Look, it's doing it. It's jumping. Holy crap. That's got to be like the oh, now it's down here. What is that? So weird. Albert posted with timestamp. Yeah, no, I believe that Albert had Jello. I'm just speaking for myself. Yep. Jello on Tiny Whip is when the battery wires are under the probs. Am I going to do the shit show? Yeah, I'll do the shit show, Nardog. That's a Bot Grinders thing. Yeah, I'll totally do that. Could you spend a couple minutes how I do my live streams and the software I employ to switch around? Okay, it is 3 p.m. It is officially when this live stream ends. I'll go ahead, Bill Revenant. I usually don't spend a lot of time. I usually try to focus on quadcopter stuff, but I'll talk a tiny bit about my process. So the software that I use to share the live stream is it's XSplit. You're looking right now at my XSplit desktop. I actually have 3 desktops. I think if you're going to live stream 2 desktops is super helpful because you can monitor the live stream on one desktop and you can have a desktop to share with the other one. If you're only doing camera, you're not sharing your desktop, then one screen is fine. I actually have 3 screens, which makes it even easier because I've got one screen for here's monitoring the live stream and here's XSplit, which is actually how I'm doing my scene switching. So here's like left monitor. Oh, you can't see. Sorry, you can't see. But yeah, that's my scene switching and stuff. In the center monitor, I have my chat that I'm monitoring, and on the right side, I have the desktop that I share. I have a camera here. I'm not going to take it off the tripod. There's a camera mounted to the wall behind me on a tripod shooting over the screen and a couple of lights that you can see. You can see the lights in the back here. It's the same lights. Yeah. If you're going to stream, you can. XSplit is a paid program. The free one is OBS, and a lot of pro streamers use OBS. It's almost 100% as functional as XSplit. I just ended up on XSplit. I don't remember why. And it's just what I've always used. So when I need to share video or something, I just switch to sharing this screen and I bring up the video in a video player. That's all I do. The mic is the Rode NT USB mic. Yep. Let's see here. All right, guys. Frank Barajas. That is my tadpole habitat, not an above ground pool. Mono Man, I have a 25 meg upstream Comcast business account. It's like 20 or 25 meg up, 50 down. Typically, I stream to YouTube at 4 megabits per second, maybe 3.5 megabits per second. That's just barely enough for a 1080 stream, but it helps ensure that the stream is stable. Botgrinder gives $2 and says, how do I get unhungover so I can go fly? Botgrinder had a show last night. Botgrinder plays in a punk band and had a show last night, so he was up late. Okay. All right, guys. We're going to wrap up. Thank you so much to all of you guys for coming out and watching the stream. One more thing before you all sign off. A lot of people ask, hey, could you do a table of contents with timestamps for this video? And no, I'm not going to rewatch a 2-hour live stream just so I can write down timestamps. But if any of you feels like keeping timestamps during the video or if you feel like rewatching it and want to do the timestamps, if you leave a comment when this video is going to repost as a DVR on my channel. If you leave a comment with timestamps and subjects, I will pin that comment, and I will thank you very, very much for your contribution to the channel. Thanks to everybody for coming out. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me and participating in the Discord. Thanks to everybody who left a super chat. There's going to be another live stream tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern time. I think I'm going to try and stream Sundays and Mondays for a little while, and use those days to work on things other than video production. Because now that I've done a lot of 2-hour live stream, man, I don't need to make any more video today. I'm actually going to work on this Beast class build, but that's a slow work, as I mentioned earlier. So see you guys on Monday, if you like. And that's going to do it for this one. I am out of here. Bye, everybody.